In lesson 1.30, you're about to have your knowledge of the verbs, the 60 most commonly used verbs, stretched again. You just in the course of our last class, you learned verb number 33, which was être. Now you're going to go from 34 all the way up to 45. So 12 new verbs in the course of this lesson. And the verbs in this lesson are challenging. They're challenging to represent with my gestures, and they may be certainly challenging for you as well to comprehend, to get an exact sense of what these words mean. That, by the way, is okay. The understanding of their exact meaning will take place over time as you're exposed to gestures and to statements that I'll make in these videos, and also the sentences you'll see within the ULAT. But the reason they're difficult is because these new verbs are somewhat cerebral. Some of them are in nature. That is to say, they're activities that take place inside your head, inside your mind. You can't see them. They're not outwardly visible, such as a gesture like this. There's something which take place inside. And so be patient with your understanding of their exact meaning. It's far more important to me at this point that you can perform the gesture, that you can say the word that corresponds to this particular action as you see an image on the screen. Far more important to me that you can instantaneously provide the proper word upon receiving a cue, whether it be a gesture or a picture, than for you to be able to indicate exactly what it means. Okay? Will you understand exactly what it means in your native language? I really don't care. I'm not concerned with your ability to translate. I'm concerned with your ability to express yourself. And over time, you'll be able to use these verbs to express the things that you want to say. Just be patient with the issue of exact comprehension. Okay, but before we get into verbs numbers 34 through 45, let's take a look at the first 33 that you've learned to make sure that you have a sufficient knowledge of them. If you know them well enough, you should be able to provide the answers in the next two exercises we're going to do before I provide them for you. If you don't know them well enough, it could be that you're cutting corners. You're not watching all of the videos, that you're not performing all of the exercises, and you're not repeating those exercises until you can keep up with the fastest pace demanded of you. I hope that's not the case. I hope you will show in the next two exercises we'll do that you can maintain the pace, that you do have the linguistic reflex I'm looking for, the ability to produce instantaneously that word. For example, when I do this, you should be able to say voir right away, voir, without any hesitation whatsoever. Okay, so let's see exactly what you know. We'll start off with the most recent verb learned, and we'll go backwards. I have a little cheat sheet in front of myself here on my screen to remind myself of the order of the words. But I'm not going to go in the order from 1 through 33, because I can say habiter, faire, écouter, laver, dire, préparer, manger, aimer, regarder, like that. And that's not really knowing them. That's just having memorized a pattern. So I'm going to change up the order a little bit to make it more difficult for you and for me to confuse you and to confuse me and to see what you really know and not what you've memorized as far as a pattern is concerned. Here we go. I'm going to say a word. I want you to perform the gesture, and you must perform this gesture before I do it for you. Okay? Être. This is a gesture maybe you're not really aware of because it wasn't really presented to you in that form in the course of our last lesson. But it's this right here. Être. That's an equal sign, by the way. Être. Okay? S'asseoir. These you should know. S'asseoir. Entrer. Entrer. Donner. Donner. Make sure you're doing them before I do. Acheter. Acheter. Voilà. Et puis vendre. Vendre. Parler. Parler. Venir. Venir. Voir. Voir. Marcher. Marcher. Rester. Rester. Ouvrir. Ouvrir. Mettre. Mettre. Aimer. Aimer. Préparer. Préparer. Laver. Laver. Faire. Faire. Habiter. Habiter. Écouter. Écouter. Dire. Dire. Manger. Manger. Regarder. Regarder. Prendre. Prendre. Sortir. Sortir. By the way, I always open the door first because otherwise you smash right in the face with it. So, partir. Partir. Et puis entendre. Entendre. Connaître. Connaître. Rencontrer. Rencontrer, voilà. Et puis aller. Aller. Vouloir. Vouloir. Avoir. Avoir. Arriver. Arriver, enfin. Et puis monter. Toc, 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 toc. I'll go back to the one we started with. Être. Now what's that gesture? Être. Être. Okay, c'est ça. Très bien. Well, that's the half of the battle. And it's the easier half of the battle. Now comes a more difficult challenge, and that is for you to provide the words after I give the gesture. So we'll do the same activity. I'll do the gesture, and you must say that word before you hear me say it for you. Here we go. Habiter. Écouter. Dire. Manger. Ça. Regarder. Mettre. Et puis sortir. Partir. Entendre. Connaître. Rencontrer. Aller. Vouloir. Donner. Entrer. I always open the door first for the same reason. Don't want to take that door on the nose. Ça. S'asseoir. Monter. Et puis arriver. Avoir. Vouloir. Aller. Rencontrer. Connaître. Entendre. Et puis ça. Marcher. Voir. Rester. Ouvrir. Mettre. Prendre. Et puis aimer. Préparer. Laver. Faire. And when we started with être. Okay. Well, I hope you're able to keep ahead of those verbs. Now, in lesson 1.30, you're going to be learning, as I said, 12 new verbs, a lot of which are difficult to envision. And let me just kind of give you a quick introduction to them, whereas you'll see them within the lesson itself, within a context, within you see gestures performed, and hopefully the meaning will become more clear to you at that point. But let me just try and find the beginning. Here we are now. The first activity is picture a whiteboard, a blackboard, whatever kind of board you use in your classroom or in your home, and you're taking the information off of that board there, and you're trying to get it into here so it becomes part of you. That's apprendre, apprendre. The next is going to be a very intensive activity you do as you're trying to be able to retain that information. Étudier, étudier. The next, here's my favorite quote. On ne voit bien qu'avec le cœur, l'essentiel est invisible pour les yeux. It comes from Le Petit Prince, one of the greatest books ever written. And this is what I'm doing here. On ne voit bien qu'avec le cœur, l'essentiel est invisible pour les yeux. That's lire, lire. And then you'll have penser, penser. And after penser, maman, whether it be mom, if you're a homeschooler or dad, or if it happens to be your teacher in school, you're looking for help, huh? Demander, demander. And then the next action is what the parent and teacher does for you. Aider, aider. Et puis après aider, nous avons... let me show you. Haha! Not connaître, it's similar, but it's not connaître. It's comprendre, comprendre. And we have, you're kind of proud of yourself, savoir, savoir. And then, this is easy to represent. Écrire, écrire. And then after écrire, you'll have, let's take mes clés. Voici mes clés, hein? Vous voyez mes clés? Alors, j'ai les clés ici, je pose les clés là, sur l'épaule, et puis, hey, mes clés! Où sont mes clés? Qui est-ce qui a pris mes clés? C'est vous qui avez mes clés? Hein? Perdre, ça c'est perdre. J'ai perdu mes clés. Et puis, je cherche partout. Ça c'est chercher, chercher. Et puis, trouver, trouver. So those are the 12 verbs that you're going to be learning in lesson 1.30. I'll see you in time for our next class. Go into lesson 1.30 now. Do the exercises. Cut no corners. Au revoir.